Good. Tyler. Hi.
Now it's saying it's recording. Is that you,
Yeah,
Doug?
that was me. I just turned it on
Okay.
so we can post this later. So I figure there's three of us here. We'll let people jump in as they're going. So I know Ralph was asking on Facebook about adding supers or freezing honey supers. Have you ever froze any honey frames?
I have not, but I've heard about it being done. But actually, I take that back. There was one year where I couldn't get to them, and so I have a spare big freezer, and I put quite a few um, honey supers in there. You know what I mean, I just left it right in the box, and the box fitted in the freezer. And I went back to it as soon as I could extract it a little bit later.
So you had to leave them out like overnight to defrost again or thaw out?
Yeah, so my garage, it's insulated and it stays very warm. And if I recall right, I just use a space heater to kind of warm it up a little bit more until it would move. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
And did it that way. Yep. So yeah, I have done that once, but it's not a common thing for me.
Yeah. But yeah, and it's not really optimal right now. I've got, I posted earlier, I don't know if you saw it, but I've got one hive that's just going gangbusters. And they've got two supers. The top super is full. I was going to take it off today, and then I thought, well, let me check first. And the second super right below it, I'll bet in another week it's going to be full. So, I know I'll take one off and replace one, but when I take it off, I don't want to go through the whole drill about, getting everything out and getting ready and just doing all the stuff I got to do and then cleaning it again and then doing it again, in 3 weeks probably. So I just thought,
So
well,
how many hives do you have?
6,
And so
but
have,
2 of them are new. So I'm only going to get honey off of 4.
so do you have spare honey super? So what you could do is that top box, if it's already capped, put that one on one of those new ones. And that way honey super's there and they'll still keep it warm, you know what I mean, kind of doing their thing. And you can put the other new one. Are you worried about the height, I guess? That's what I'm
Kind of, because
going with
I,
this.
Doug had mentioned earlier that you can throw another box on and get it as tall as you need until you're no longer comfortable with it. Well,
Yep, you can.
right now it's on a kind of almost rotten platform pallet. I don't know how much weight it's going to handle. And so as I stand there, it's on cinder blocks, and then I got my boxes. It's pretty high right now, and I don't want to go any higher.
Right. And I've done that. I've made a mistake one year where I had one that was just on fire. And I thought, man, this is cool. I want to see, how tall I can make this tower, right? Yeah. And until it came time to try and get them off. And it was not stable being on a ladder. And I'll never do that again. That was spooky, working that much weight and torquing your back.
Yeah.
But what I will do though, I do this often, is I'll take that box, so I can usually go about 3 supers high. So if need to put a 4th, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a box off and get as many bees out of there as I can. You know what I mean? Keep it on the original hive, and then I'll transfer that onto one of my newer ones or younger ones. It's not really producing. You know what I mean? And they'll just sit there, and then if they want to work it, they work it. You know what I mean? That kind of a deal. And then that gives me room to put that 3rd box back on that original. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And
Yeah, because that's what I want to do.
Maintaining that hive. Or if you want to take 2 boxes off, put one on one hive, one another, and now you can go back to 1 and 2. But you're going to have all those original bees. So you got to worry about how many bees are in there. You don't want to make them do a late swarm.
Yeah.
If you take too much room away. You follow me?
Yeah, I do. So the question I've got is, if I take that super and put it on one of the, the less busy hives that I'm a little bit concerned about, and I put it on top and they're working the super that's closest to the brood box, are they going to rob that super on top because it's full? Or, I mean, it's full.
Right, right. They could, but if they're working a super already, or do you have it just your two deeps or?
No. There's supers on both of them, but they're kind of lollygagging.
Okay, so if they're already working a super, they shouldn't rob the other one because they're going to still feel that. You know what I mean?
Okay, all
Now,
right.
what you might even do is checkerboard the one that you take off the good one, okay? And you're going to put that one on, let's just call the good one Hive A.
Yeah,
And you're going to put it on Hive B, okay, the weaker one. Maybe take one or two frames out of the one from A and checkerboard that on B as far as your honey super,
right.
and then put those two back on there, and then they'll work both boxes. And that might actually force them to work it a little bit more.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've done that checkerboarding for the last couple of years on honey supers, and it works real well. So.
Okay. Now here's the other question then. I don't know if you've used these before.
So
I could probably put
don't
this
have
on.
that. I don't have that particular one. I have a different one, but it's the same concept. Yes.
Okay, so getting all the bees off of that first hive, I should probably use that and then plan on taking it off day after tomorrow maybe. That way I don't have to worry about blowing them off or brushing them off. They'll already be gone. That's probably the way to go, huh?
Yeah, I would. You know what I mean? So if you're going to
Okay.
if you're going to keep that strong one 3 deep or 3 honey supers, you know what I mean?
Right.
One thing to consider, if you can manage a 4th box temporarily, take that top one. So 1, 2, 3, take that 3rd one, lift it up, and put on the spare. Then you're going to put that bee escape on that top of that 3rd one. Put your 4th one over that bee escape. That'll force them all to go down, including the empty super, which is now box 3. Okay, going from top or bottom to top. Am I losing you?
No, I know. What I got, brood box,
Okay.
and then I've got a super that's being worked pretty heavily, and then the full super.
Okay.
So what I was going to do was take clear them out, knock them down to this box, and put a fresh box in here. But I get what you're saying. If I put an empty box on top, they'll all be working in there. And after I get it, I leave them alone for a week, then maybe I can take this box and put it down. I was reading somewhere where the new box ought to be closer to the brood box between that and a super that they're already working. So when the bees are coming in, they'll more likely start working this one, continue working this one.
Right. There's different theories back and forth on that.
Yeah.
What's right or wrong, I don't know. I think that's one of those. It's up to the beekeeper. You know.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I do the gut supering thing just because I think that they've got less distance to travel. They come in,
and
and
that's
then they
the theory.
go. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
when
And
my
it's not as
supers,
hot up at top.
so yeah, when my supers are usually 80% full, that's when I'll gut super them. So, but yeah, I wish I was making honey this year. I've lost 4 hives. I got 2, I think, that might be queenless. I got to recheck them because I didn't see any eggs last week, and I got to check this week and see if there's anything. But I've only got, out of my 16 hives, I've only got 3 that are strong enough to have honey supers on.
Wow.
Kind of stinks. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so.
But I split hard and heavy this spring too, and I had a lot of new frames that had to be drawn. So that's probably the problem.
Yeah.
So you and I are very similar there as far as our production stuff. And I was unable to get to that last meeting. I really wanted to find out if people are having any problems this summer. I am. I almost every hive, they have requeened. So that has set me back. Even with putting, because I got a bunch of new queens from Jason, and then I had some that I naturally requeened. That for some reason it's just hive after hive. They're just killing the queens and re-going. So that has slowed me down. I've also changed my hive setup where I used to run a single deep and a single medium, and I'm trying to go double deep. So like Doug was saying, I've now added a new box where those frames have got to be drawn. That slowed me down, but it just seems like they're just not throwing on honey this year at all. I mean, even as they draw out, because I had quit feeding them for a while, thinking, all right, we finally got flow. They're gonna draw out without me having to buy so much sugar, and they stopped drawing out those new frames. And so I went back to feeding. And I'm going through 100 pounds of sugar left and right, you know what I mean? Just to try and keep them to draw out those frames. And I'm just struggling with the honey production. I'm not getting much honey on any of my hives.
This
So
is
it's
really
more
something.
concerning for me.
Well, this is really something that you guys are saying that, because I thought it was just me. You know, I have one hive that's textbook. It's doing great. But at the beginning of the year, I had some strong hives, but my knees were operated on. I couldn't get out there and do anything. And by the time I got out there, and Heidi came over to help, so we were splitting hives, but I think I had swarms already. We split hives. Most of the queens died. I mean, it was a fiasco. And so I did the same thing you did. I bought some queens from Jason. And those hives are really slow to take off. You know, I checked them today, and they've got some brood, but they're not doing diddly on building up the frames on the outside. They're just, I don't know, they're putting a little bit of honey on each frame, but they're not building up honey frames. The other hives, I've got one hive that's had 4 queens this year. It's unbelievable that they somehow managed to put queen cells in there, and a queen came back, and the next week that queen was dead, but just enough time to lay eggs, and then they started all over again. I got one
I don't
hive.
know if it's weather or what. I've got a couple of hives that are doing all right, like normal, what they should be doing. But as a whole, most of them are just, they're struggling, they're far behind. And then also I've got a bunch that like overnight became honey bound. And so they got supers, but they're not working the honey supers, but they are just filled all that top box with the honey, and the queen has no place to go. So this whole week I've been pulling those frames, extracting them with hopes that they'll go back, repair that comb, because there'll be, minimal damage from the extraction. And then she'll immediately start laying in those before they, repack it with honey again. And so next week I'll go back and just kind of see what the progress is on some of those. But I don't know if that's going to work or not, but I at least opened up a bunch of honey, you know what I mean, or frames running. So,
Yeah.
But like I said, it's been problematic for me this whole summer. I'm just pulling my hair out one way or another. It's like, as soon as I think I got it figured out, and I got a new issue.
Yeah. Do you guys leave everything alone until after the rabbit brush is finished? Which last year, the rabbit brush actually bloomed around the end of September. So it was October before it was completely over. Do you leave your frames on that long?
I back in the day when I first got started, Jack Moore was the current president back then, but he was teaching over at the community college. And that's how we got started learning. We took lessons, my wife and I. And Jack always said, go till the end of Labor Day and then pull your honey. So I've always used that. And I will usually go an extra week after Labor Day and then pull. But I've heard some people doing it late, but their honey sets up too thick or something like that. And I don't know. So I don't know. Doug, have you ever gone? How late do you go, Doug?
I've usually done around the Labor Day thing too. I've also heard that rabbit brush honey kind of smells like dirty socks. So let the bees let the bees have that. Usually I
Oh.
pull mine around there and then let them pull that rabbit brush in so they can build up weight for the winter. When I was staying here, now that I'm going to California, I pull up when I think I've got enough to extract, and then at that point decide whether I'm putting the supers back on or just going to let them try to fill back in for weight.
Well, that's interesting about the rabbit brush too, is I was reading about that, and it's the localized thing that some shops sell it for very specialized honey because not every place has rabbit brush, and it's supposed to have a taste kind of reminiscent of hazelnut. So that's why I was curious. I didn't do it last year. I pulled everything too early. But
See, I
"Well,
don't
I'll try it
separate,
again."
I don't separate my honey from yard to yard. I mix it all with one big blend. It's just
Yeah.
easier for me that way.
Yeah.
A
Yeah, if
lot
you
of
wanted
work
to
to
do that,
separate it.
say if you
Yeah,
wanted
I
to do
got
that
it.
rabbit brush honey, you'd have to make sure that you had empty supers on just before the bloom happened. And then and then pull them off as soon as the bloom was done. That's how they have to do it. If they're doing like the Tupelo or the sourwood honeys or all those
Yeah.
specialty honeys.
Yeah. Oh. Well, it's just another idea. Okay, well, I'm gonna get off a little early. We haven't eaten yet, so I'm gonna go ahead and get back to doing what we're doing. And I appreciate it. I'm gonna do what we talked about. So I'll get them all out of there and move them over to one of the other hives that's just not doing so well. See if they can play catch up.
Yeah, I've been doing that for the last several years and I haven't had a problem.
All right. All right. Thanks. Appreciate the advice.
Yeah.
With Tracy and Cynthia jumping on, maybe they have an opinion. So his question was, he's got some supers that are getting full. He doesn't trust the pallets that they're on right now because he's thinking they're getting a little bit heavy. And he was debating on whether freezing the honey until he's ready to extract, or Tyler suggested moving him on to another hive that isn't quite as full with honey temporarily. Got any thoughts?
You can do either. Freezing it won't hurt it. Putting it on another hive won't hurt it. So it's more a matter of what's probably more convenient for you to do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It really wouldn't matter because freezing it doesn't do anything and neither does moving it. Whatever would be easier is what I would do.
Okay. All right. Tracy's idea was pretty good too. It's almost like it's an encouragement for the bees that aren't doing quite as much to see, hey, suddenly we've got a full super on top of us, or maybe even checkerboard some of those full frames down in the lower super. See if that'll get them going.
I don't think it's going to have anything to do with the hive you're giving the honey to their what they think. The only thing is if you want to build some more comb, it'd be a good time. You could do a lot of checkerboarding with new foundation because those are already full and capped. And that's actually ideal for building your comb.
So checkerboarding is the way to go. If I take that off, then I can put it into one of the hives that's really behind the power curve right now. And that's going to get them to build up the frames that they haven't built up yet.
Yes, just checkerboard
That's what
them
you're saying
in.
too.
Yeah,
Okay.
because you think about it, on both sides, they have capped honey. So
Yeah.
that middle one, they're going to build just right.
Okay. All right. Well, between everybody here, I got my answer. I appreciate it. Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, Tracy.
Yep.
Appreciate it. And thanks, Doug. I sure appreciate it.
Yep. Have a good one.
Have a
All
good
right.
night.
We'll be seeing you guys. Thank you.
Yep.
Still an awful small group.
Yeah, I mean, there was about 8 people that responded, said they were going to show up tonight. So,
Okay.
but hey, at least it's not just you and I talking together.
Yeah, definitely. The one thing that I don't know what it is. I have on my phone that is supposed to, have an alarm 30 minutes before so I can make it here on time. And it never goes off. I don't know why. Google Calendar, how it gives you a warning and it just won't do it. I don't know why.
I don't know. I get an email. Mine pops up as an email from the club email saying, "Hey, your thing's supposed to start in 10 minutes." So anyway, so good evening, Cynthia. I haven't heard anything from you. Got any questions for us tonight?
She's muted. Doesn't look like she's unmuted herself.
How's that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
hear you now.
I got tons of questions. I got tons of questions, but yeah, it's just I got a really strong hive. I got my flow hive is just flowing really good, and I got a really weak hive, and I just can't find the energy to get out there to actually freaking do what I got to do.
Yeah, I got that. By the time I get home, it's 100 degrees outside and I don't want to go put on that suit.
Exactly.
One of the advantages of being retired is I head up there about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning and I work until it gets too hot. Then I go home.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. I've been able to do that myself, especially this week.
I only have that option on Saturday and Sundays, and that's when I got to get everything done.
Right. That's when you got to mow the lawn and spray the weeds and fix the roof and, cut the limbs and, everything.
Yeah,
Yes, we'll
or
have to do
fix a
all that.
fence.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you see that text I sent out that the wind blew half my fence down on top of my hives?
Oh, that's not good.
That was not good.
Yeah.
Luckily, it only damaged a couple of lids, and I had some spares, but didn't
Good.
seem to do it. Other than having really, really grumpy girls when my son and I were trying to pick that stuff up and put it back up, they weren't happy. But
Well, I finally got some honey out of my hives. They're about 3 or 4 weeks behind. Jason seems to think I got sprayed, but they're all producing honey now. But I was able to pull 150 pounds off, and I'll be able to start the farmer's market. But it's just a bummer that everything's right. I did everything right. All of the mite counts were great, but they just all stalled, started going backwards.
well, at least you've been able to pull. I've got on mine, I've lost a few. I think I was telling you guys, I think I might have two that are queenless because they didn't look like they had any brood, any eggs in it last weekend. So I'm gonna check this weekend, see if not. I've got 4 that are still in just a single. They were swarms and they were splits, and the queen's just not
Yeah.
doing anything.
Yeah, see, that's where some of mine are. The queen is she's there, but she ain't doing anything.
Right.
And she's a good size. She's a beautiful
Very
looking
weak.
queen, but she just isn't doing nothing.
I've had those hives. They're good to be in 1 or 2 mediums. She'll lay 3, maybe 4 frames of brood. They won't ever get big enough to go out of 2 mediums, and the whole hive's happy that way. They're just fine. They just not. They're never going to get any bigger. In every case when that's happened, I've had to pinch the queen. Just
Yeah.
put a new queen in it.
And really, that's for the better good because they won't be strong enough going into the winter.
Exactly. And don't pinch the queen and let them make a queen out of the genetics that are there, out of her eggs. Either put a commercial queen in them or wait about 7 days and go in and cut out all the queen cells and then put a frame of eggs from a different colony in there, one of your good colonies. So you get the change in genetics.
Yep, that's exactly what I do. If that's failing, I'll pinch her, let them stall out for about 3 days. They'll try to start making a couple of cells on their own. But that time, that's where I'm going to a strong hive, finding my egg frame, go in and drop it in the other one where I just pinched her. But at the same time, I'll squish every single queen cell that they started and force them to draw off of that frame I just dropped in there. So,
Well,
yeah, because why repeat the same DNA and have the same problems?
Exactly. And it may not be a DNA issue. It may be something was wrong with her or she didn't get mated right or whatever. But why take the chance? It only costs you 3 or 4 days.
30 days out, you're going to regret it if you have the same problem. So.
Exactly. See, I thought I was having queen problems, but I couldn't figure out because I would go in and there was plenty of brood, but yet the bees weren't there. So I kept thinking, well, in another couple of weeks, the hive will take off because I've got good brood, but they just wouldn't take off and wouldn't take off. And that's what Jason really thought it was being sprayed, and I think so because they're all taken off just fine now. I had one that was still in a single, but a raccoon or something got in my fence and took care of that. It was the smallest hive, knocked it over, tore it all up.
Hmm.
Had to have been
So,
something small
so
though.
you think your foliage is about 3 weeks behind in your area?
No, no, not my hives are about 3 weeks behind because they got sprayed
Okay,
with the pesticides. Yeah.
okay.
And the funny, I got kind of got the tail end of that rabbit brush thing. I've heard both things. I've heard it makes it smell like old wet gym socks, and then I've heard other people say it's a specialty honey, and they like it. So I don't know. I would have to. I physically am going to need to get some and taste the honey to see, because they're two ends of the spectrum. They both can't be true.
Well, if it's the same I've had before, it's got a different color to it. I almost want to say it's like a milky color. It's cloudy,
Okay.
and to me, it's bitter. You know,
Okay. Does
yeah.
it smell bad though?
I've only had a few times. I don't get it for myself. I've bought some from other
Okay.
local folks, but I don't recall a smell to it. I just know for me, it tasted kind of bitter.
Right, right. Well, because in Virginia and in a lot of other places, they don't have rabbit brush, but almost everywhere you have a very late flowering yellow, whether there be goldenrod or aster or something like that. And I do know those make your honey smell terrible. So when
Mm.
I moved here and I was told um, that the rabbit brush did that and the pollen and everything is about the same color, I just believed it. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah. And see, I kind of do like what Doug says, but after Labor Day, like I said, I'll go Labor Day as my kind of approximate date to extract everything.
right.
And then sometimes I'll wait an extra week. And I think it was last summer or the summer before, our foliage was about 2 to 3 weeks behind. So I waited just a little bit longer. But anyway, once I pull everything, whatever they bring on is for them for the winter, just to backfill everything and kind of go that route. So,
Yeah, my thought on it was that it was just something good for them to build up on, and so I didn't worry about it. Where I'm at, there's plenty of rabbit brush around, but at that time, all of my bees are feeding on the alfalfa, and as you know, they're not going to stop feeding on alfalfa until there's no more. Once there's no more alfalfa, then they'll start on something else. So as long as all the alfalfa fields around me are blooming, I went as far as the third week in September, just depending on what the farmer's doing. But all it takes is one day after he's cut that last alfalfa field, and you've got then you've got got it in your honey. So I always kind of coordinate with the farmer when is he going to cut the hay fields, and then I make sure it's off before he cuts the hay fields.
hmm.
I would be very interested in tasting some of that honey, though. Do you have any, or does anybody have any?
I don't.
Hmm.
You're muted, Doug.
I don't have any either, but if I had any, it would have been mixed with everything else because I usually just do if I can, I do an early extraction and then a late, but this year I couldn't even do an early because I split my hive so heavy. They've been building up. They're building frames. So maybe next year I'll actually get the bumper crop. And
Yeah.
I may have gotten sprayed again this year because my wife said that about a week ago, the crop duster was out just to the west of me, hitting something.
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible.
Yeah. Well, there's a new crop duster up here. The Olathe Spray usually would give me a call a couple of days ahead saying, hey, we're going to be within a half a mile of your house. But there's this new guy around here who just shows up and doesn't say anything. It's kind of annoying.
Yeah, I'm still trying to learn how to do this Zoom thing here, and you guys are kind of like breaking up on me.
Got it.
Hey, I'm a newbie as well.
Yeah, I'm not doing real well with it. It just went kind of funky on me, and I'm trying to figure out what it did to try to undo it.
Looks like you had a background blur on, like I've got a virtual background on mine.
Yeah. Well, that's something I changed because I thought what it had done, it was something that had mistakenly gotten changed. So I put the blur on, but then I took it off. I think I got it figured out. I don't know why it did what it did, but anyway, it's back to normal.
Are you all seeing my video?
No,
No,
your name is up there is
Uh-oh.
all.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was struggling
Like I said,
with
I'm still
that
trying to figure
too,
this out.
because I was using my phone and usually I don't give my mic and camera up. I keep that locked down, but
Mhm.
apparently you have to go into the permissions and allow it under the app so that you'll get it. And then at the very bottom, I got three little dots. So I'm all the way to the one on the right to see everybody. But when I was scroll to the left, then it would automatically mute me. Right? It took me a little while to figure that out. So
Hmm.
Well, at least I got it to unmute on my phone. So,
yeah, we can hear you.
but my flow hive seems to be doing really good. Yeah. Yeah, my flow hive seems to be doing really good. I actually got some honey out just a few days ago.
Good.
It was really light. It was really light in color though.
I was surprised with this is the first stuff I pulled. I pulled it on Friday or Saturday, and it's light for being this late a year. Usually May, June honey's kind of light, and by this time, once they're on the alfalfa, it gets dark.
Yeah, I got a little bit of a mixture. Like I don't know when you came in, Tracy, if I'd already explained, I've been having just one issue after another this summer pulling my hair out. But one of the issues I've had is they've been honey bound, and so that's why I did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was work through each hive, through all the different yards, and find the hives or frames that I can pull. You know what I mean? And of course, you got to be somewhat careful on the wet honey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I got a refractometer, so I'm still able to read all that. You know what I mean? So you get a blend. But anyway, so I extracted the frames that I could in hopes that she'll go back now once they clean that up and hopefully start laying in there before they have a chance to backfill that with honey again. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
next week, I marked each of those frames I extracted, and I kind of checkerboard those in between my brood, with still hopes that they would go in there and do that. So anyway, I'll go back next week and see if my plan worked or not. But I got to do something to give her a chance, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And they'll
Yeah.
clean them up no matter where you put them.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But if when I do that, I put up together, I put like two together in the middle of my brood's nest. And remember, just always remember the golden rule that you don't leave one frame of brood by itself, no matter wherever
Right.
it is. There's
Right.
always two.
Yep. Yep.
But if you put those empty frames in the middle of the breed box, she'll come right back and start laying in them just as soon as they get them cleaned up.
Yeah, that's the hope. You know what I mean? Because bottom box, she's doing just fine, but they got ahead of her on those upper ones, and that happens. You
Yeah.
know, you get pollen bound and honey bound. At least the honey you can extract out, but
Yeah.
so we'll see if it works.
Well, I got everything really pointing north now in my bee yard. Everything's going great. So I'm just holding my breath. I'm going to go do some probably late this week. I'll go do some mite counts to see how my mites are because they've been low, but I like to keep a good eye on those. And then this is the time of year where my work kind of goes down because even when I check a hive, I don't necessarily tear down into it. Take a good look in the supers. I got good population. They're making honey. Hey, let them be.
See you now, Cynthia. You're muted,
Yeah,
but we see you. There you are.
There
You're
you are.
choppy a little bit, but you see you.
I think
Or-
she's frozen at the moment.
Yeah, her internet might be cutting her
There we
in and out a little
There
bit.
she goes.
Yay. Well, for a minute.
Yeah. That's an
Yeah,
internet
I'm
great thing.
kind of that same way, and but usually by now I've got the supers going, and I just let them keep doing. My main thing is just keep adding supers, and give them more room. But
Yeah.
I'm just had to really baby them this year and keep going. As far as mites, I've been really blessed so
Is
far.
behind me here.
The highest count I've had is 2. You know what I mean?
Yep, me
So,
too. Matter of
yeah.
fact, every run through I've had all zeros, and then on one hive, one time I got a two mites.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they've been really good, and I've been real good at keeping the towels on them. So
Yeah, that's the thing. I've been doing the towels, and I've changed them more often. I'm doing about once every 2 to 3 months. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And
right,
even if they are still a little moist, because the ones I have, I'd already bought before Jason recommended those wet
Tex.
text or something, which are thicker, but mine are thinner. But anyway, so I got to burn those off. You know what I mean? Rather than throwing away. So I'm
Right.
still using those, and I'll go to those other ones next time. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So,
Well, I'm finding that my colonies are clean. They're tearing them up and taking them out of the hive quick. So it's like I don't have to worry about them drying out. I'm having to replace them because they're half gone.
right, right, right. Well,
And I know
Cynthia, we
it's
see you
just
now.
yeah. We can see you. We can hear you. We got you going.
Great. I finally figured it out. Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
have
I
a
do have a
flow hive.
question. Yes, I have one flow hive and then I have a 10 frame, but my 10 frame was really acting weird this year. She was like laying in the upper and then the lower was just filled up with honey. So I went ahead last month and I switched them. I put the lower down on the, yeah, I just switched the top and the bottom. But, but yeah, I don't know if I did that right or not, but there's still bees going in and out. So,
It sounds like you did just fine. Yeah.
Mhm.
all right.
Yeah, I let them try to move down. I like to let them do it naturally, but I would say maybe one in every 8 or 10 hives. They don't. Likes to stay in the top, and then
Mhm.
long about middle of May, I end up having to switch them around. So most of the time they do it naturally, but not always.
Well, I went ahead and I switched it and then I put a queen excluder on there so she doesn't go back up to the top.
Oh, okay,
Hopefully,
okay,
hopefully that'll work. But
yeah.
but yeah,
So you
my
you excluded her into the bottom deep box is
yeah,
what you did.
yeah,
Okay.
yes, yes,
I've
yes.
heard of people doing that. It's not real
Mhm.
common, but I've heard of other people that like to do that. And
Yeah.
so you're not going to hurt anything. I know you're kind of questioning whether you did it right or did it wrong, or, you know, I don't think it's not a common thing that's done, but I don't think you're hurting anything doing it.
Okay.
So that's how I was running my hives for quite a few years.
Okay.
I've changed. I started double deeps, then I went to 3 mediums, then I turned around and ran a single deep, and then I would put on a medium, or excuse me, a medium super, but not so much for her to lay, but just extra food for the winter. You know what I mean? But still maintaining the brood box is that single deep.
Mhm.
And I've done ruroid well, but now I'm to the point where I want to go back to the double deeps, and that's been my transition this summer. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
the single deep works well, other than like for example, Ian Stepler, he's that Canadian guy. Now, he's an extreme north and extreme cold. However, he winterizes them inside a temperature controlled um, pole barn, more or less. You know what I mean? So he's able to do that. Here in Western Colorado, we still have to have extra food because we don't have, unless you're planning on doing something similar to what he's doing, you got to make sure they got enough food for that winter. And that's always going to end up being critical from, like mid-January, February. That's when they need the food the most. And that's the worst time for us to crack it open just to throw in some, extra food for them one way or another. But anyway, so that's why I would do that medium
Mhm.
late in the game, on top of that super, or excuse me, that deep. So, I think you'll do fine.
I hope so.
Yeah, yeah. I've never done the flow hive. When we first thought about doing bees back in the day, I almost bought that. The price is what's kept me away from it, so I never did invest into it. But I've talked
Well,
to a couple of people, and it's a hit and miss. Some people really like it, and some people regret having it. I don't know. What do you think of it?
I'm on the fence.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I'm right on the fence. I mean, in one way, it's nice, and then another way, it's just not traditional. So,
right, right.
like, I've got all this equipment here I got the spinner and everything else. It's like I can't use the spinner if I'm using the flow hive. So,
But
but
you
I
have a
am
second
planning on,
hive, right?
yes, I do have a 10 frame, but that's the weak one. So I might not even pull any honey out of that one this year. But
Right.
I am going to try this weekend to get more honey out of the flow hive. So if you want to come down and watch, you're more than welcome.
Oh, I appreciate it. Appreciate it. I'm not sure what I'm doing yet this weekend, but I think that's still pretty cool. You just put that long Allen wrench in it and crack it open, don't you?
Not all at once. No, nope, nope, nope. If you do that, the honey will all flow down to whatever's underneath it. It's just a couple of clicks at a time. Then you wait for it to flow out, and then you go in a little bit more, and you click it, and you let it flow out, and go into it's time consuming. It took
I
me
see.
about 3 hours. Took me about 3 hours to get 2.5 quarts. So,
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
but
Huh.
then again, I was only doing one frame, so I wasn't doing a couple of frames at one time. So
Sure. So will one frame, when you crack that and it slides that one frame will give you about a quart?
2.5, two and a
Two
half
and a
quarts.
half quarts. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's still quite a bit for that box, yeah.
It is.
Yeah, and there's six
It is.
and there's 6 frames in there. There's 6 frames in there.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I'm
that's a
like
good
Tyler.
couple of gallons. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like Tyler. I didn't do it because of the cost. I was looking at what it cost for one of them. Whoa, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I couldn't pass up mine. I got this flow hive and a couple of suits and a smoker and a couple of tools, all for $100.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
yeah,
have
I
done that.
scored
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of deals like that, I have a friend in Cedar Edge that's getting out of the business and has if y'all are looking for equipment, he's got deeps and long langs and uh, an extractor and suits and all, and he's selling out too. He's sending me an inventory. I'm going to put it um, up on the Facebook or something so that everybody can call him if they want it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm thinking about getting a hold of that Hive for Heroes thing and maybe
Yeah.
getting one of those guys, but maybe getting one of those guys to come over here to help me because
Yeah.
it's getting pretty hard to do it by myself.
Yeah. Yeah, we can definitely run over and give you a hand, you know what I mean? Reach out. I was unable to get to that last meeting as well to that. Went over and helped some folks in the past, but whatever we can do to help each other, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and I wouldn't even mind, splitting honey with them and stuff like that, if they just come over here to help me out.
Oh, I'd come help you, but I wouldn't take your honey. That's your honey.
There's nothing that tastes like your honey.
That's
You know,
right.
your
This
own
is
honey.
true. This is true.
I still have the pictures of my first bottle of honey that I produced that I ate myself and me putting it on a
Uh-huh.
biscuit.
Yep. And that had to been a homemade biscuit too, right?
It was. My wife makes the best biscuits. Oh, she makes awesome biscuits.
Well, hey, I'm gonna end up trying to figure out how to get off this thing as well, but I was just curious. My main thing, it sounds like similar to the other folks, was just seeing what kind of problems other people were having, if it was just me or what, just it seems like the weather and there's just a lot of weird things affecting the bees this year compared to the years past. So
Definitely.
it's an odd year, I think.
Yeah. The farmer, the guy who manages the land where my bees are, he was telling me that I was gone 3 weeks on vacation, but he said that the alfalfa field that wraps around three sides of my hive, he said for some reason the grass grew really tall and the alfalfa wouldn't bloom. And then he ended up having to cut it because the top of the grass was starting to dry out and die. So, like you're saying, just weird things happening. And because of that, that's why I think I got sprayed, because I think my bees were going other places than they normally go. You know, every year after year, they stay right there by the hive. They're right in the middle of a alfalfa field, you know, but they had to go somewhere else. And I think somebody else was spraying, and that's what did it.
Hmm. You know, I don't see any dead bees around my hives. I don't think I've been sprayed at all, but they just, I don't know. They just, like I said, there's room for her to work, but she won't work.
Hmm.
Or for whatever reason, they, you know, like I said, almost every one of my hives, I'm running, I'm back up to 36 there for a while. I kept bouncing between 33 and 34, but almost every single one of those, they have requeened at least once. They didn't like her. And, you know, and as you know, that's by the time she's actually laying eggs that you can confirm she's doing good. You know, you're almost 30 days into that. And, you know, that really sets you back, you know?
Mhm.
So ever since spring, man, I've just been struggling with these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I normally don't have that issue, you know what I mean? But it's just been a goofy year. So, but at least for me. But anyway, good seeing y'all. You take care.
Yes. I'm going to work on that Google Calendar, see if I can get that dumb thing to remind me, because every time I think, oh, it'll go off, and then I'm sitting there doing something else, and then it doesn't go off. So yeah, I'm gonna head out too. I don't think there's any more questions or anything. So
Doug's probably eating dinner. So
probably, and it's good to talk. It's good to see you again, Tyler. We'll
yeah, all right, likewise. There he
see
is.
you
All
all
right.
later.
Yeah,
Y'all
no,
have a good one.
had people talking in the background, so I was muting and not paying
No
attention.
worries. No worries. Have a good one.
Okay.
See you
See
next
you later.
month. Yep.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
I don't know if y'all can see that, but there's my hives back there.
Yep, I can see them.
All right, yeah. The one's doing real good. Then there's that other one that's just not doing hardly anything at all.
Well, hopefully we can get some people to come out and give you a hand and see if we got any thoughts for you.
Yeah. That'd be good. Like I said, I don't know what what I did was right or not, but yeah, I did it. So it's a learning curve, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, have a good night, and we'll see you at the next meeting.
All right. Bye. Thanks.